Hello and welcome, Lockdown Defenders. This is Coach Mike, and today we are breaking down the Miami Heat defense, the bedrock of this historic Miami Heat run, and a team that has just punched its ticket to the NBA Finals.
Man, oh man, what a defensive play. Tremendous defense. Wow.
Now, before we get into it, let's hear from Eric Spoelstra himself.
If your best players aren't defenders, it's hard to create a good defense. We have Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo. They care about defending and doing the tough things. It's pretty easy to figure out the rest of the stuff.
And he's exactly right. When you have a player like Jimmy Butler, who can defend some of the league's best scorers, and is versatile enough to guard wings, guards, and even bigs at times, paired with a player like Bam Adebayo, who can guard his position, as well as league MVP wings, and even get switched on to guards and slashing wings, you have the start of a great defense. But Miami has a roster up and down with guys who value defense. From guys like Gabe Vincent, who has been smothering taller and longer wings this whole playoffs, like Middleton, RJ Barrett, and Jaylen Brown. And not to mention guys like Caleb Martin and even Max Strus, who can always hold their own across varying matchups. In fact, Miami even has veterans like Kyle Lowry coming off the bench to make plays. This roster means there are no easy targets for an opposing offense, and it allows Miami's to switch everything at times to neutralize all these actions and make you have to beat them one-on-one. And Miami doesn't always switch, and in fact the versatility of their lineup allows them to try out new matchups, like putting Butler on Lopez to neutralize the pick and roll and put Bam on Giannis. And against the Celtics, they even put Bam on Jaylen Brown as the initial matchup to allow them to play another big like Kevin Love. And although everyone can guard their own yard, in Miami's system, no one has to do it alone. And that's because they are constantly offering help and clogging those gaps. I mean, look at the wall they are putting in front of Giannis. If you want to go one-on-one against Miami, you're not going to have a lot of room to operate. Again, we see behind Tatum and Strus, you have a wall of defenders at the elbows and blocks. And because no Miami defender gets beat in straight line, you're not going to be able to get to the paint. And as you just saw, Miami doesn't just sag the gap, they use them as weapons, digging and stunting and causing turnovers from their position. Miami is known for making players regret driving. In fact, they believe in the gap so much, they'll even help off the strong side corner on specific matchups, which is widely seen as a cardinal sin in today's NBA. The gaps also play a crucial role in guarding the post for Miami, as well as stopping transition. And they are one of the best teams in the league at loading to the ball early in transition. In fact, they are so good at it that passing ahead in transition actually leads to a numbers advantage for Miami. Watch here how Zeller sprints to the level of the ball, plugging the gap from the trailing player. This prevents any early drives into the Miami defense and forces offense to go into their second options, which means you'll be stuck in the half court a lot against Miami, playing against those gaps and those versatile defenders. And if you want to go one-on-one, good luck. You're going to have to beat them with contested twos. With any defensive principle, there are always going to be trade-offs. And as you can imagine, plugging those gaps will leave more space for shooters. But Miami's defense fits together like a puzzle. Watch how they close out. They are willing to aggressively close out and even fly by shooters to impact shots. Now, I would not recommend this technique to defenses at all levels, but for Miami, it is a needed piece to their puzzle to mitigate the trade-off of sagging the gaps and impacting three-point shooters. It especially allows their undersized players to get to the level of release for these shooters and have the greatest chance of impacting their shots. And yes, there are downsides to this technique as well, but in the NBA, impacting three-point shooting is at a premium. And there's an additional benefit to this technique for Miami, because as they fly by, they contest to run. Meaning that every time they contest a three-point shooter, they're going to have a head start in transition and a chance to get back an easy two. This is a nightmare for so many players that like to watch their shot. And because so few misses come back to the shooter, even if they follow their shot, it's a gamble that often pays off. Not to mention the mind games it plays with pull-up specialists or tough shot creators. Meaning that Miami is turning defense into offense in a second. But there's another piece of the puzzle we haven't talked about, and it's Miami's rotations. And I don't want to necessarily highlight Miami's scrambling ability and how they X out and fly around. And as you can see, they are great at it. But instead, what I want to highlight is how they rotate to protect the rim. Now, Bam is a formidable rim presence. He can come over and block shots and protect the rim. And Jimmy Butler is obviously no slouch at the rim either. But the Heat do not have a patented shot blocker or vertical threat. Instead, they rely on positioning, leading the NBA in charges taken. They are one of the fastest teams to rotate and help get out of that charge circle and get ready to take the charge. And to avoid the charge, you're going to need to take your floater a lot earlier or abort your drive completely. I mean, just watch how quickly Martin gets over to this position to stop Tatum's drive, get in position for the charge, and force the travel. That's how you protect the rim without a quote-unquote rim protector. Here we go again. Strus rotates and help, and this possession is going to be a masterclass of what makes Miami's defense so formidable. Jaylen Brown has to pass out to avoid the charge, and they get a deflection. Again, something Miami leads the league in. But look at Butler, sprinting directly to Brogdon, the best three-point shooter, and just stunting at Smart. Did you notice the time and score? They can't give up a three, so watch Martin play the pass to Tatum on Horford to prevent that one more pass. They lose position a little, and as Tatum drives, we know he's going out with it, and Butler steps in front and takes the charge. A masterful possession of knowing personnel and executing the game plan. But there's one last piece we need to cover, and that's Miami's versatility in the ball screen. Spoelstra loves to employ a hard hedge, something that is more rare in today's NBA full of drop coverage. Love in particular is very good at this and can catch some players off guard because they're only really giving up the pass to the roller, which is something Miami is willing to live with to get the ball out of the guard's hands. Similarly, Miami can also use a flat hedge to contain the ball handler and trust their backline rotation, and of course they can go to their drop coverage to keep Bam at the rim, minimizing rotations and forcing you to beat them in the mid-range. Of course, getting free from their guards who can navigate screens is another challenge completely, and always be careful for Jimmy Butler's behind poke. No one can deny his knack for the ball, and these plays have become huge in this playoff run. In case you thought that was it, of course Miami can also trap ball screens to get the ball out of the ball handler's hand and trust the rotations behind it, which we have already seen their savviness to know what they're willing to give up. This ability to have so many different coverages and to constantly mix them up can really disrupt an offensive player. In this game, they've been trapping Tatum consistently in the ball screen, especially in the first half, so that when the first play of the second half starts, Tatum is fully expecting another trap. But Miami has changed to a flat show. But Tatum was expecting the trap so much, he's picked up his dribble and even forces the pass to a covered Horford. When you play Miami, you are never going to be the one who's a step ahead. They're always going to have more tools to go to, and they're going to let you make the mistakes. They can send traps, they can switch everyone, and they rely on great individual defenders and aggressive gaps. You're not going to beat them doing what you want to do, and certainly not going to beat them one-on-one. One thing we haven't mentioned is their ability to throw out their 2-3 zone for long stretches of time to completely disrupt the flow of the offense and to hide lesser defenders on their roster. Of course, the Miami zone defense would need a full breakdown of its own, but at the core, Miami's defense are anchored by their 2 stars, a roster full of defenders, and a group constantly willing to make multiple efforts and sacrifice their body with a knack for finding the ball, which is why the Miami Heat are headed to the NBA Finals. Heat culture has done it again. And if you want to learn more about defense with clinics, programs, and our best-selling book, head over to lockdownhoops.com. Thanks for watching, and as always, I'm Coach Mike with Lockdown Defense. Keep up the hard work.